table. I'm your host, Teen Wolf, and today we got our co-host back, Ozzy, our little buddy. He's so happy to be here right now. He totally doesn't hate any of it. Look at that face. He's so mad. Here, I'll let you down, buddy. I'll let you down. Alright, welcome to the table. I'm your host, Teen Wolf, and today we are going to be finishing off the Dominaria Remastered, streamathon / just cover all the cards and all that whatnot kind of stuff. But anyways, so, he's sitting down. But so, today we are going to be covering the rares and mythics for Dominaria Remastered. And before we get into the video, please consider subscribing. It's completely free. And yeah, with all that aside, hello Master Taz, it's great to have you back. But with all of that aside, let's get into the stream and let's see what rares and mythics Dominaria Remastered has to offer for us. And we are going to start right off the bat with a Banner Absorb, which is a one white and double blue instant that says counter target spell, you gain 3 life. So it's like a counter spell, except you have to pay 1 additional mana, but you gain 3 life. But it is still an unconditional counter spell. So pretty solid card in my opinion. And hey, if you're to ever get this in draft, definitely recommend playing it. Great card in Commander. And just incredibly solid card overall. I would definitely recommend putting this in just about any one of your blue and white decks, whether it's draft or commander. I mean, probably not Legacy, but because Legacy has to have the best of everything. We all know this, but yeah. That is still an incredibly solid card to start off today's stream with. And then the next card is Arborea, which is a 2 and double green enchantment, world enchantment, which if you don't know what that means, I mean, I didn't know up until Double Masters 2022 came out. So a world enchantment means that this affects every player on the board, so whatever this card says, this impacts every single player on the board, so there is that. But it says creatures can't attack a player unless that player cast a spell or puts a non-token permanent onto the battlefield during their last turn. So basically, if... I know this probably doesn't happen that often. If you are playing Commander and you're playing against a werewolf deck and they're trying to make it night, you play this and all your creatures are unblockable. Basically, your opponent has to cast spells every single turn of the game, and so do you, or else people can attack you without having any worry of... Oh, wait, no, creatures can't attack a player unless that player casts a spell. Wait. Creatures can't attack a player unless that player casts a spell. Ooh, actually, wait. Okay, I completely misjudged that card wrong. I read that card wrong in my head. So actually, you can't attack a player unless they put a spell out or cast a spell or put a permanent out on the board. So, yeah, that's a pretty busted card in my opinion. And in Commander, that could be a really, really powerful kind of pillow effect or pillow fort. I don't know exactly what those cards are called, but basically a way for your opponents to not be able to attack you is what I'm trying to say. And next up is a card, Good Morning Good Morning Barrel House. It's good to see you. But next up is a card, I think there are other Elder Dragons in this set, or that I'm going to talk about today for this set. But the first one is Arcady Sabbath. For 2 double green, double white, and double blue, it is a 7/7 legendary Elder Dragon with flying that says, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this card unless you pay 1 white, 1 blue, and 1 green. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, this card better be really, really good. It's not really all that good. Each untapped creature you control gets +0/+2 unless they're attacking. So any creatures you have with Vigilance are going to get the extra buff. And for 1 white, you can give this card +0/+1 until the end of turn. So, yeah. Not a very good card. I mean, it's fine, but, I mean, this is from the very, very early days of Magic the Gathering. This was one of the original legendary creatures. And way back then, this card was incredibly busted, and it's still pretty good nowadays. But it's definitely not what it used to be. Let's just put it like that. However, Arcanus, the Omnipotent, is a very, very broken card. Up to this very day. And it's an older card, I'm pretty sure. Because for 3 and triple blue, it is a 3/4 legendary wizard. Now you may be thinking, okay, these stats aren't very good. This card better be really good. And trust me, it is. Because you can tap it, not having to pay any mana, you can just tap it and draw 3 cards. So it's an Ancestral Recall on the stick. Oh, and you can pay 2 and double blue to return this to its owner's hand. Now, you may be thinking, okay, this thing's got protection, whatever. It's not like this has any other effect on the card. Well, in Commander, or in Legacy, or in tons of other formats, you can get infinite mana, right? Well, with this card, you can use that mana. And if you have any way to give this creature haste on the board, like Concordant Crossroads, which I keep bringing up in this stream, or these streams, then you get to draw your entire deck. Not broken at all, right? Right? I get it, it's situational, but the potential, and just the card alone, by itself, I mean, it's got protection, and it's an Ancestral Recall on a stick. That's pretty good. That is really, really good. And next up is another really solid card, Birds of Paradise. Because for 1 green, it is a 0/1 bird with flying, and you can tap it to add a mana of any color. Ever since it originally came out in Alpha, yes, that thing came out in Alpha. Of all the cards that came out in Alpha, there were not that many that were powerful, except the Power 9. But this card was definitely up there as one of the most powerful cards that has ever come up in Magic the Gathering, that has ever been made in Magic the Gathering history. I'm sorry, Taz. Yes, that is a bird. It is a bird. It is a bird. Yeah, it's a bird. It's actually kind of funny, the island and the way that the art of the bird, it kind of looks, I mean, the bird doesn't really, but it looks like so excited for that card. Hope that, yeah. And plus, Birds of Paradise is actually a somewhat expensive rare, and it's just a really solid card overall. Because, I mean, it's a 1 mana, 0/1 flyer, so it's a chump blocker. It's a really good chump blocker. But, I mean, it's a mana rock. Well, it's a mana dork. But it's a rainbow mana dork is what I like to call them. Because you can tap it for mana of any color. I mean, what? Are you kidding me? What? That's insane. That is insane. It's an amazing card. It's good in Commander. It's good in Legacy. It's good in every format that you play it in. I mean, yeah. If you have this card and you're playing green, put this card in the deck. I don't care what deck it is, put it in it. It's that good of a card. Especially in a green or deck with green in it ramp deck. Because, I mean, oh my god. That card is so good. But anyways, next up. Body Snatcher. And oh, by the way, the one sad thing about Birds of Paradise, I recall it isn't legal in Modern, but I may be wrong. But I would not be surprised in the slightest if that card isn't legal in Modern, because I mean, it's Birds of Paradise. It's a pretty good card. But I think it might be legal in Modern. But anyways, next up is Body Snatcher, which for 2 and double black, it is a 2/2 Phyrexian minion. Yeah, minion. I'm sorry, it just looked weird. And it says, when it enters the battlefield, exile it unless you discard a creature card. Already doesn't look great, and it's a rare, so it's gotta be better, right? It's gotta be better than that. But it says, whenever this card dies, exile it and return a creature card from your graveyard onto the battlefield. Whew. Okay, so you may be thinking, okay, so what? Well, here's the thing about this card. When it enters the battlefield, you have to discard a creature card. So you discard a giant threat. And if you have any card out there in Commander like Viscera, okay, Birds of Paradise is legal in Modern. I just got confirmation from Barrel House. It is legal in Modern. That's good. That's really good because, oh, I cannot wait to play that as a mana dork in my future green decks. But anyways, Body Snatcher, you have to discard a creature card when this enters or it dies. So you discard a really, really big creature, right? And then you sack it to something like Viscera, right? Then you get that giant thing that you had to discard right back onto the battlefield. So you could cheat like here, let's, okay. You are a mono black recursion deck and you're playing like Modern or Commander, it doesn't really matter. But so, gosh dang it. Okay, just give me, okay, so you're a mono black recursion deck. Let's say you have a Viscera out on the battlefield, and you have this and Emrakul the Aeon's Torn in your hand. Now, if you don't know what that card is, first off, you're very lucky. Second off, it is the biggest creature in Magic the Gathering history. It's a 15 mana, 15/15. Now, at first, you're like, okay. I mean, it just does a lot of broken stuff, but you're like, how am I ever going to cast it? Well, with this card, you play it, you discard the Emrakul, you sack this card to Viscera, and you bring the Emrakul right back into play. Now, you don't get the bonus of, because you have to cast Emrakul in order to get the whole, you take an extra turn after this one thing, but here's the thing. It's got Annihilator 6, so when it attacks, your opponent has to sack tons and tons of things, and it's got protection from basically everything in Magic history. Because it's got protection from colored spells, which is, like, all of Magic the Gathering. So, yeah. Really busted card. Really, really busted card. But, yeah, Body Snatcher, it can be good in a recursion deck is what I'm trying to say. Whether it's Modern or Commander, it can be a really good recursion card in your recursion deck. And next up is Chainer Dementia Master, which for 3 and double black is a 3/3 legendary human minion that says all nightmares get +1/+1. There aren't that many nightmares in MTG, so what's this? What? So it says for triple black and you have to pay 3 life, you can activate its ability of putting a target creature card from a graveyard, any graveyard, onto the battlefield under your control. Okay, so I get to recur the biggest thing in the graveyard from any graveyard and put it directly onto my battlefield for only triple black and 3 life. Okay, already pretty solid. That creature is black and is a nightmare in addition to its other types. And whenever this leaves the battlefield, though, you exile all nightmares. So if this dies, then all the stuff you recur with it dies. However, those things that you recur do get a +1/+1 bonus as well. And you get to, it's a recurring machine because you don't have to tap it when bringing something back. So as long as you have black mana, you can recur a lot of stuff. And as long as you have a decent amount of life. So yeah, really busted card. Definitely a good card to definitely a card to consider playing in Commander. And definitely a fun card, maybe in like some kind of modern recursion deck. But yeah, super duper fun card. And next up is Clifftop Retreat, which is a very fun land from this set, to say the least. Because when it enters the battlefield, it enters tapped unless you control a mountain or plains. Any kind of mountain or plains. It doesn't have to just be a basic, so any kind of Triome or like the original dual lands, like if you're playing Commander and you're got way too much money for your own good, it enters untapped. So, and it taps for a red or white. So, well, I mean, obviously this card isn't legal in Pauper. If it was legal in Pauper, it'd be amazing, because, I mean, you play tons of basic lands in Pauper, right? Well, not always, but yeah. Anyways, really solid card in my opinion, overall. Just really fun, really good land that you can play in Modern, that you can play in Commander, that you can play in any format it is legal in. Yeah. This cycle of lands is really cool. I'm pretty sure this cycle of lands are called check lands. I'm pretty sure, but I may be wrong. But anyways, next up is another fun card that I guarantee Rye Guy is going to want to play against me one of these days. Crawl Space. It's a 3-mana artifact that says no more than 2 creatures can attack you each combat. So, all my, like, fun token decks that I love playing against Rye Guy, goblins, yeah, it's basically impossible for me to kill him. Great. That's just an annoying card to play. You can play it in Commander, you can play it in Modern. Yeah, it's a good card. I'm not gonna talk about it because that card's, I guarantee, is gonna annoy me a lot in the future. And if anyone pulls that in Draft, that is the game. That is game over, more than likely. And then next up is Cryptic Gateway. For 5 mana, it's an artifact that says you can tap up to 2 untapped creatures tap 2 untapped creatures you control, and you get its ability, which you can activate at instant speed. And you can put a creature card from your hand that shares a creature type with each creature tapped this way directly onto the battlefield. So if you're playing a tribal deck, here, let's go back to Emrakul again. If you're playing an Eldrazi tribal deck and you have this card on the battlefield, tap 2 of your Eldrazi Scions, which, I mean, you're going to make in Eldrazi decks, and then put Emrakul into play. Once again, you don't get the casting bonus of gaining an extra turn, but like I said earlier, it's a giant threat. It's basically impossible to kill unless your opponent has a giant blocker. And yeah, just super duper solid card. Super duper duper solid card. And give me just a quick second. I think I did something wrong here, but crap. Give me a sec. Something went wrong. Okay, there we go. We're all good now. Okay, next card is Decimate. That's a fun card right there that is good in just about any red and green commander deck, or can be a pretty solid removal spell in Modern as well for red and green, because Decimate is a sorcery for 2, a red and a green, and destroys an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and a land. Great. Creature removal, enchantment removal, artifact removal, land removal, all for 4 mana and in red and green. Whew, that's a fun card right there. And super solid card in Commander, I would say, if you want removal, really solid removal in your red and green deck. And that's a card that you can play in your Modern decks if you want to, because yeah, you're gonna wreck your opponent really hard. Anyways, next up is Denizen of the Deep. And for 6 and double blue, it is an 11/11 Serpent, so already pretty decent stats. And it says, when it enters the battlefield, return each other creature you control to its owner's hand. So you have to bounce all your creatures back to your hand. Well, here's the thing. If you're playing a white and blue deck, you don't play creatures. You have, like, one way to kill your opponent in the entire deck. That is that one way to kill your opponent. So yeah. Or if you're playing a Simic, a green and blue ramp deck, and you're just ramping into one giant creature, and you're not usually going to play tons of creatures, unless they're mana dorks, then you just put this out. Sure, you bounce all your mana dorks back, but now you got an 11/11 in play. And those mana dorks usually have you a ton of mana out. You can just replay super duper quickly and play another big creature next turn. Good morning. Hey, MTG Gaming Bot, Bob, it's good to see you. Good morning. But, Denizen of the Deep, it can be a fun kind of end the game thing. I definitely wouldn't recommend playing it in that many decks, but I don't know. I mean, it could be a fun card to play in draft, but you could play it in certain decks, but yeah. It's, unless you're playing it in some kind of ramp deck where you're only playing small stuff, yeah. Let's just move on from that. Next up is Divine. Is a combo piece with the Thespian Stage. Oh right, Thespian Stage. Divine Sacrament is up next. For 1 and double white, it is an enchantment that says white creatures you control get +1/+1. Already solid card in like a mono white commander deck, or maybe even some modern decks. And it's also got Threshold, so as long as you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, those creatures get an additional +1/+1 bonus. So, this card has the potential for 1 and double white to give all your white creatures +2/+2. I would definitely say that that is a very solid card to play in like your white creature commander decks. And just a really fun card to play. And who knows, maybe play it in certain modern decks, but probably not going to see it that often in modern. And hey, if you pull it in draft and you play a ton of white creatures, there's a way for you to win the game. And then next up is a very, very good cycle. Well, the first of a very, very good cycle of cards. Enlightened Tutor is up next. And if you don't know what that is, well, you're in for a treat. Because for 1 single white mana, it is an instant. And it says search your library for an artifact or enchantment card. So, how many cards do you play in your deck, in your commander decks out there, that have white, or that are, I said that right. How many cards do you play in your commander decks that are artifacts or enchantments? Yeah, a lot, usually, right? Well, with this card, for 1 white mana, you can search for any one of those, reveal it, and put it on the top of your deck, and then wow, I keep saying this wrong. I am so tired. Okay, 1 white mana. It is an instant. You search your library for any artifact or enchantment in your entire deck. You shuffle your deck. You put that card, reveal it, and put it on top of your deck. I said it right. There we go. But yeah, really solid card in Commander, and it's sadly not legal anywhere outside of Commander, except for Legacy and Vintage, of course. But, God, I wish that card was legal in Modern. That'd be such a fun card. But yeah. I'm kind of sad because this cycle of tutors, it's gonna come up again. I'm sad that they didn't make a red one. Like, why did they have to make Enlightened Tutor search for artifacts and enchantments? Like, just make it only search for enchantments, and make a red tutor, Chaotic Tutor, 1 red mana, search your library for an artifact, shuffle, reveal that card, put it on top of your deck. Why can't you just do that? Why you gotta do red that? Why do you gotta do red like that? Mean. Red deserves a tutor. Well, yeah, there's a red tutor gamble, but like this was the original tutors from Alpha. But yeah. And yeah, gamble once again, and it got reprinted in this set, by the way, but you can only play it. You can only play it in formats like Commander. You can't play it in Modern or something, which sucks. But anyways, next up is another really fun tutor, Entomb. For 1 black mana, it is an instant that says search your library for any card you want. Okay, already looks really promising. Put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle. So once again, you're playing a recursion deck. You get your biggest thing and put it into your graveyard, waiting for you to recur it. Yeah, MTG Gaming Bot. Yeah, black gets all the good tutors. They always get the search your library for any card, and usually, like, you either put it into your hand or put it on top of your deck, but a lot of the time it goes into your graveyard, which, I mean, in black, does that really even matter? I mean, it might as well be on the battlefield, basically, is what I'm saying. I mean, not always, but a lot of the time, if you have tutors that say, put this into your graveyard, it's basically search your library for a card and put it onto the battlefield, because black is annoying. So yeah. Anyways, next up is a really fun card that you can play in Commander, and I'm pretty sure it's legal in Modern too. Exploration. 1 green mana enchantment that says you may play an additional land on each of your turns. Okay. Turn 1, play that, and I already got 2 lands in play. Awesome. In Commander, that's busted. I'm pretty sure you can play it in Modern, and that is busted in Modern, and I don't think it's played in that many Vintage and Legacy decks, but yeah. Broken card. All around. It's always going to be broken, and always, yeah, it's broken. I would play it in any deck that you... Okay, so yeah. Hey, Barrel House, he's saying that he's starting to understand stuff, which I don't really understand what that means, but oh, it's because you're all waking up. I mean, to be fair, I'm still waking up, and I can still barely read these cards correctly. But anyways, next up is Forgotten Ancient, which is that is a card because for 3 and a green, it is a 0/3 enchant elemental. And it may be one of the best enchantment artifact removal spell. Oh, wait, no. Wrong card. Wrong card. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of the wrong thing. Okay, this card for 3 and a green is a 0/3 elemental that says when a player casts a spell, you may put a +1/+1 counter on this card. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you may move any number of +1/+1 counters on this card onto other creatures. So like you can distribute the counters on this thing among your creatures at the beginning of your upkeep on each of your turns. That is busted. And it gets a counter anytime a player casts a spell, broken in Commander, broken in multiplayer, any kind of multiplayer, because I'm pretty sure that can be played in Modern too. It's like it's a really good multiplayer Modern card, or just Commander card, or it's a broken card, is what I'm trying to say. And hey, if you get that thing in draft, you got yourself a really good win con. But anyways, next up is a card that MTG Gaming Bob was just talking about a bit ago. Gamble. 1 red mana, sorcery. And this is the best tutor red is probably ever gonna get. And it still has a pretty big downside because the thing that you tutor for, you still have a chance to not get it. Which is awesome. Because Gamble, that... as it says in the name, you're gambling because for 1 red mana you get it is a sorcery, so it's not an instant, which already isn't great, but you get to search your library for any card you want and put it directly into your hand. Pretty solid, but you have to discard a card at random, and then you shuffle your deck. So, yeah, like I said, you're gambling because you still have the chance to discard the thing that you tutored for. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah, Gamble, it's a really good card, and I wish I could play it in Modern, because I like Modern, and I'm not the biggest fan of Commander, and sadly, you can only play this thing in formats like Commander. Love that. Next up is a really solid land that is played in many, many formats, except just Commander, but Gemstone Mine. It is a land that says when it enters the battlefield, it enters with 3 mining counters on it. Okay, pretty solid. You can tap it and remove a mining counter from it, and add a mana of any color. Okay, 3 turns, add a mana of any color. And once you run out of mining counters on this thing, you have to sacrifice it. So, oh, hi, Oz. Hi, buddy. So, yeah. 3 turns of mana of any color from this thing. But then once that goes away, you have to get rid of this land. Solid in Commander. Pretty sure you can play it in Modern. Pretty good in Modern. I would say Gray Modern, actually. And I'm pretty sure it's played in a good amount of maybe Legacy decks. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not super knowledgeable about Legacy, but I'm pretty sure it's played in Legacy decks, but I'm not 100% sure. But anyways, next up is Glory, a card I've never heard of, so it's probably not going to be great, but who knows, it may be good. For 3 and double white, it is a 3/3 incarnation with flying. Decent stats so far. And for 2 and a white, Ozzy, yes, Taz is talking about Ozzy. There he is. There's his face. He's looking away. He doesn't want to be in here. I'm just gonna pet him with my leg. He loved being in here. He was actually my co-host at the beginning of the stream. But yeah, he was having fun. And then he wasn't having fun and he wanted off of me. But yeah, now he's just chilling. He loves getting pets. And he's just staying in here with me. He probably is not a huge fan of it, but hey, he gets to chew on his toys. So at least there's that. But Glory, for 2 and a white, says you choose a color, and you don't have to tap it when you do this, which is nice. So you choose a color, and creatures you control gain protection from that color until the end of turn? Oh, but activate only if this card is in your graveyard. Okay, less good, but still really solid. That is insanely powerful. And Barrel House was just saying, yeah, Ozzy is a great co-host. He's an amazing co-host. And he's a fluffy co-host that I love to pet. But yeah, Glory in your graveyard, 3 mana, all your creatures gain protection from a color of your choice until the end of turn. Okay, that card's good. Definitely would recommend playing that in certain white commander decks. And modern, who knows, maybe play it, maybe not play it. But yeah, that's a fun card. That's a really fun card. And once again, if you pull that thing in draft, you got yourself a win con. Okay, next up is Grim Lavamancer, which for 1 red mana is a 1/1 human wizard that you can pay a red and tap it to exile 2 cards from your graveyard and have this card deal 2 damage to any target. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not a great card. I'm just gonna say, it's not really that good of a card. It's probably the worst rare that we've seen so far in this set. Yeah, I'm looking back at all the rares. Yeah, that's probably the worst rare. That and Arborea. But, yeah. I mean, Arborea is still a really good card. Oh, wait, no. That and Arcades. I think Arcades is worse because it costs way more. But, yeah. Grim Lavamancer, definitely not great. I'm not gonna really... I just wouldn't recommend playing it. But anyways, next up is a card that is incredibly annoying. Because it affects your opponents, too. Helm of Awakening, 2 mana artifact. Spells cost 1 less to cast. So yeah, you get that bonus, but so does all of your opponents. So do all your opponents. So, I mean, if you are a kind of storm deck and you're planning on winning the turn you play this thing, so your opponents don't really have to worry about it, I mean, great for you, but if you play this in a format like Commander, where you are definitely not going to win in a single turn just because of playing this thing, that game's going to get really fast, and people are going to die really quickly, and you're probably going to be one of them. But yeah, that's a way to end the game fast, is basically what I'm saying. And if you play that thing in draft, expect a really fast game, but a really fun game. So, if you want to be just the Lord of Chaos and just do tons of crazy things and just make the game twice as fun as it should be, go ahead and play it. And then next up is another one of those lands I was talking about earlier. Check lands, I'm pretty sure is what they're called. Hinterland Harbor. And it's a land that enters the battlefield tapped unless you control an island or forest. Any kind of island or forest doesn't just have to be a basic, and it taps for a green or blue. So, like I said with the other check land that we've covered so far, really solid card. And hey, green and blue ramp. It's an untapped land in green and blue 90% of the time. Great card. Really, really, really good card. And next up is Isolated Chapel, which is the same thing, but it is white and black. And once again, super solid card. Definitely would recommend playing it in any of like your commander decks or modern decks or your decks. Any of your decks. Because check lands, really solid lands, because it doesn't just count the basics of those types. It counts any kind of land with those types. And it doesn't have to be both, just one. So that's really solid. And next up is Jester's Cap, which is another pretty old card from Magic's past. And for 4 mana, it's an artifact that says you can pay 2, tap, and sacrifice this card, and search a player's library for 3 cards and exile them. Then that player shuffles their deck. So yeah, that's a card. Basically, you get rid of your opponent's biggest win con, or just a really solid card, because you get to know what your opponent's doing decent, like pretty early on in the game, like on turn 5, I guess it's pretty decent. Turn 5 or 6, depending on how much mana you have, or 4, or yeah, 5 or 6, yeah. But yeah, that's a solid card. I don't think you'd see that in that many decks, but yeah, that's just a fun card from Magic's past that you can play in certain decks, and maybe a card you play in Draft, but I'm not exactly sure how good or not good this card will be in an actual game. So if any of you have been playing Magic for a long time, is this card really good, or am I underestimating it, overestimating it? I don't know. But next up is a pretty fun commander for green that's I'm pretty sure people have wanted to get reprinted for ever since it got reprinted in M21, or since it got printed in M21, it was originally printed there. Joel Rail, I can't remember how to pronounce that thing. I'm not gonna pronounce that thing. Miss J. Manovril Recluse. I have no clue how to pronounce her name or whatever elf tribe she's a part of. Wow, that is a really hard word to say. But anyways, for 1 in the green, she's a 1/2 legendary human druid that says when you draw your second card each turn, you create a 2/2 green cat creature token. Okay, green, caring about draw. That's already pretty broken. And there's a decent amount of draw in green. And for 4 and double green, until the end of turn, creatures you control have a base power and toughness XX, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So yeah, that's a really fun card if you're playing green with tons and tons of draw, which green has the potential to draw a decent amount of cards, or if you're playing a green and blue deck, where you're just, yeah, that can be a really fun card and a really fun way to win the game. And next up is Lieutenant Kurtar. For 1 in double white, it is a 2/2 legendary bird soldier with flying. Alright, decent stats. And for 1 in a white, you can sack it and exile target attacking creature. Okay, so here's the thing. You can block a creature with this thing, and in response to damage, you can tap 2, sack this thing, and it still counts the creature that you blocked it with as a blocked creature, and you exile one of your opponent's bigger creatures that's attacking you. So you basically negate damage from 2 creatures by only using 1 creature. That's a pretty solid card in Draft for sure, and maybe formats outside of Draft, I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, that looks like a really fun card to play with and just kind of screw with your opponents a little bit. And then next up is Lotus Blossom. Anytime you hear the word Lotus, you know the card's going to be broken, and I'm pretty sure this card is going to deliver like all of the others. Because for 2 mana, it's an artifact that says at the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a petal counter on Lotus Blossom, okay? Petal counter, like Lotus Petal, which means like this thing's gonna sack for mana. Lots of mana, I assume. And you can tap and sack it and add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of petal counters on Lotus Blossom. So if you have a way to like double the counters being put on something, like a lot of cards in Commander, like Foreign Collects or Doubling Season, you can put a lot of counters on this thing really fast, and then you can tap and sack it and add a ton of mana all at once. So that could be a really fun card. In certain decks, who knows? But yeah, really fun card. And, I mean, it's got Lotus in the name, so obviously it's going to be a fun card. And who knows, maybe play it in draft, maybe not play it in draft. But anyways, next up is Maze of Ith, which is a land that you can tap it and untap a target attacking creature and then prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to and dealt by that creature this turn. So, yeah, basically you negate all the damage from any one creature attacking you, and you untap it. And you prevent the damage being dealt to that creature as well, so. But yeah, that is an incredibly powerful card. In Commander, for sure. And I think certain modern decks, you could play this in certain modern decks, but yeah, really fun card. And next up is Mind Slicer. Okay, that already sounds like a busted card. For 2 and double black, it is a 4/3 horde. It says when it dies, each player discards their hand. What? Oof. That card is mean. That card is scary. And in draft, oh, wow. If you get this thing out early and you block and kill it, yeah, that is a mean card. That is a very, very mean card. In like a sack deck or mean card. Very, very mean card. I'm not even gonna comment on whatever that emoji is, Taz. That looked really weird. Like a ghost, like, going, yeah. Anyways, next up is another tutor, Mystical Tutor. For 1 blue, it is an instant that says, search your library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal it, shuffle your deck, and put that card on top of it. That's a really, really broken card. Whew. Yeah, search your library for the best instant or best sorcery in your deck, probably an extra turns card, and yeah, you are just gonna make your opponent incredibly scared, and they're gonna know they have a certain amount of turns until they're gonna die, because when you take 1 extra turn in a blue deck, you usually end up taking another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, or just search for the instant or sorcery that you need in like a kind of control deck to wipe the board or get rid of an important thing on your opponent's board or just something. Because, I mean, in blue, you're just going to search for whatever you need to either win the game or prevent your opponents from winning the game. So yeah, really fun card and a really, really broken card as well. And next up is Mystic Remora, which for 1 blue mana is an enchantment with a cumulative upkeep cost of 1. 1 mana to start off. And at the beginning of your upkeep, put an age counter on this card. Then you sacrifice it unless you pay its upkeep cost for each age counter on it. So the first turn, you pay 1 mana. Then you pay 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, then 7, and then 8. And eventually you just stop paying for it and it goes away. But until it goes away, it says whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 4 mana. Oh my god. That card is insane. I mean, Commander, once again, that is a reprint that Commander has needed for a really, really long time because it got originally printed in Ice Age, I recall, which was a really long time ago to say the least. I mean, way back in the very early days of MTG. And yeah, really broken card. Super glad to see it again. And I think that could be a pretty fun card to play in draft. Next up is Nantuko Shade, which for double black, it is a 2/1 insect shade that for 1 black says you can give this thing +1/+1 until the end of turn. So yeah, as long as you have black mana, you just keep pumping this thing until you have enough power and you just kill your opponent with it. So in draft, another way to kind of win the game with it, you just attack with it, your opponent blocks stuff, and then you just keep pumping mana into this thing, and you deal way too much damage to your opponent for them to handle, and they either die or get really close to dead. So yeah, really, really solid card overall. And next up is Opposition, which is another interesting card. For 2 and double blue, it is an enchantment that says tap an untapped creature you control, and then you get to tap an artifact, creature, or land. So if you have enough creatures, kind of like a card I was covering yesterday in Uncommons, you can tap all your opponent's lands on their turn. So yeah, that's something. It's not a great card in my opinion, but it can definitely do some broken stuff. It can definitely do some broken stuff if you have enough creatures in play. And next up is Overmaster, a 1 red mana sorcery that says the next time you would cast the next instant or sorcery you cast this turn can't be countered. Oof. And you get to draw a card. So yeah, really busted card in my opinion. And ooh, wow. Yeah, just really solid card. And next up is Oversold Cemetery. For 1 and a black is an enchantment that says, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So, yeah, a way to bring back creatures into your hand. It's not great, but yeah, it's a decent card, I guess. And next up is Pashalik Mons. For 2 and a red, it is a 2/2 legendary goblin warrior that says whenever it or another goblin you control dies, this card deals 1 damage to any target. Yeah, that's a pretty solid card in Goblins, in Commander, in Goblin Commander, in Goblin Modern as well. That's a solid card. And for 3 and a red, you can stack a goblin and create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. So if you have lots of mana, you can keep sacking goblins, make more more sack fodder, keep sacking stuff, make more sack fodder, and just keep doing that, and then you kill your opponents eventually. That's fun. Yeah, really solid card overall. Next up is Phantom Nishoba. For 5, a green and a red, or green and a white. It is a 0/0 cat beast spirit with trample that enters the battlefield with 7 +1/+1 counters on it. Yeesh, that is scary. That is very scary. And it says, when it deals damage, you gain that much life. So it's got lifelink. It's got trample and lifelink, and it enters with 7 +1/+1 counters on it. So a 7 mana, 7/7 trample lifelink. Pretty solid. And it says whenever, or if this would be dealt damage, or if damage would be dealt to this, instead, prevent that damage and remove a +1/+1 counter from this card. So, yeah, you have a pretty big creature that's trampling, that's lifelinky, and that's really hard to kill, because it takes a while to kill, because you need to deal damage to it a lot. So, or just block it with a ton of things. One of the two. But yeah, really solid card. And next up is Pyre Zombie, which for 1, a black and a red, it is a 2/1 zombie that says at the beginning of your upkeep, if this card is in your graveyard, you can pay 1 and double black, and if you do, return this to your hand. So not great. And for 1 and double red, you can sack it and deal 2 damage to any target. Yeah, I mean, I'm not exactly sure why this card got reprinted. I mean, it's a fun card, I guess, but it's definitely not great. Yeah, it's decent. Maybe I'm not exactly sure how this card works or something, but yeah, it just seems, it's not great, is what I'm trying to say. But anyways, next up is Riff the Awakener, which for 3, a red, a green, and a white, it is a 6/6 legendary dragon with flying. It says whenever this deals damage, or whenever this deals combat damage to a player, you may pay 2 and a green. Okay, I'm pretty sure I know where this card's going. And then if you do, choose a color. Okay, that already is pretty scary. Then you create a 1/1 green Sapro Lane, Jesus, creature token for each permanent you control, or yeah, for each permanent you control that is that chosen color. So yeah, you can make a lot of Sapper Lane tokens with this, is what you're trying to tell me. Great. away in red, green, and white to make even more tokens. And it's a 6/6 flying body, so yeah, that is a scary card. It's not the best card in the world by far, but it's still a pretty broken card. And here's another decent but pretty broken card. Royal Assassin. For 1 and double black, it's a 1/1 human assassin. Not great, but at instant speed, you can tap it and destroy a tapped creature. So you may be thinking, okay, not great. Basically, what you would use this for is like tap it and destroy an attacking creature, basically. Or, here's what you could do. You could block something with this, one of your opponent's bigger creatures with it, tap it, and destroy your opponent's biggest attacking creatures. So, yeah, it's a decent card, and it's a fun card. And I've played against this card once, and it ticked me off to no end, so definitely don't underestimate it. It's good. It's a good card. I mean, at first you may think Wandering Emperor, which is decently similar to this, but a Planeswalker, so it's obviously going to do more than just destroy, or in Wandering Emperor's case, exile something that's tapped. But yeah, don't underestimate it is what I'm trying to say, because it can be a solid card. And next up is Saproling Symbiosis, which for 3 and a green, it is a sorcery that says you may cast it at flash speed, but you have to pay 2 more to cast it. So for 6 mana, you can play it at instant speed. And create a 1/1 green Saproling creature token for each creature you control. Okay, that's a card. That's an interesting card. You can make a lot of Saprolings at instant speed for 6 mana. So, yeah, pretty solid card overall, in my opinion. Oh, Ozzy needs to stretch. Osmi needs to stretch. You need to stretch, buddy. Oh, what are you doing? Why are you wagging your tail? Why are you wagging your tail? Oh, he's so happy. He's so happy to be in here with me. I don't think he is. I think he wants out. Here, just give me a second. I'm gonna let him out. Ozzy. There you go, buddy. Alright, well, Ozzy, the co-host, he's left. He's not here anymore, sadly. But let's keep moving on. And once again, Saproling Symbiosis, solid card, fun card. And 7/7's Reclamation. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but who knows. For 2 and a white, it is a sorcery that says, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. If the spell was cast from a graveyard, you may copy this spell. Wait, what? If this spell was cast from a graveyard, you may copy this spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. Okay, so you can return a permanent to the battlefield with mana value 3 or less. Or, wait, what? I don't... Turn target permanent if the spell is cast from a graveyard. I don't know if I'm just reading this card wrong or what, but it says return a permanent. Instants and sorceries aren't permanent, so how do you you don't copy the permanent that you're returning, right? If you do, that's busted. But, I'm not sure if if I'm either just reading that wrong, or if it's like a really solid card, or a really bad card, or what. And hey, it's also got flashback for 4 and a white, so I'm not exactly sure what that card is trying to say, but I'm not sure if I'm reading it wrong or something, but it looks like a good card, but I'm not 100% sure. And then next up is Shivan Dragon, which for 4 and double red, it is a 5/5 dragon with flying, that for a red, you can give it +1/+0 until the end of turn. It's been around for Magic the Gathering for a really long time. I mean, it was the original, it was the OG dragon of Magic's past. It's still broken to this day, like Sarah Angel I was talking about yesterday. And I mean, this card's so good. It's so good. I mean, it's not the best dragon in the world by far, but I mean, 6 mana, 5/5 flyer, it's decent, and you can just pump it to the moon as long as you have red mana to do so. So, yeah, it's awesome. And, yeah, Taz, dragons. Yes, dragons are very fun in Magic the Gathering. But next up is Siege Gain Commander, which for 3 and double red, It is a 2/2 goblin that when it enters the battlefield, you create 3 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. Decent. And for 1 red, you can sacrifice a goblin and have this card deal 2 damage to any target. So you make goblins, you can sack said goblins, and deal damage. Decent. To any target, which is also, yeah, it's a good card. It's a good card. For sure. And next up is Solkanar, the Swamp King. The Solkanar in Standard right now is really broken. I'm pretty sure the older version isn't great, but it's still pretty broken from what I've been told. So let's see if it is broken. So for 2, a blue, a black, and a red, it is a 5/5 legendary demon with Swamp Walk. So what that means is this creature cannot be blocked as long as the defending player controls a swamp. So any kind of swamp, by the way. So yeah, it's already pretty broken. It's like a 5 mana 5/5 unblockable. And whenever a player casts a black spell, you gain 1 life. So yeah, really solid card overall. And next up is Spinal Embrace, which is for 3 double blue and a black, so 6 mana total. It is an instant that says cast this spell only during combat, okay? And untap, wow, there's way too many words on this thing. Untap target creature you don't control and gain control of it. It gains haste until the end of turn. At the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice it. If you do, you gain life equal to its toughness. Okay, so during combat, you get to gain control of one of your opponent's things, and you have to sack it, and it gains haste. So you basically get to steal one of your opponent's things for a turn, and it gets haste, and you get to attack with it, and you have to sack it at the end of turn, and then you gain life equal to its toughness. So you get rid of one of your opponent's creatures, you get to swing with it, you gain tons of life because of it. Pretty solid card for 6 mana. I mean, it's not great for 6 mana, but it's still a solid card overall. And next up is Stroke of Genius, a card that's also been around in Magic's past been around in Magic history for a very long time, and is still a pretty good card up to this day. Because for X, 2, and a blue, it is an instant that says target player draws X cards. As you get more and more mana, you keep drawing more cards, and it's even more worth it. And if you're wanting to refill your hand later on in a game and you have tons of mana out, just use all your mana and draw a whole new hand. And yeah, it's been around in Magic for a really long time, and it's a really fun card, not gonna lie. And next up is Sulphur Falls, which is a land that enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain or island, and it taps for a blue or red. Like all the other lands I've talked about that do something similar to this. Really solid card, awesome card, love to see it, really good in tons of decks, commander decks, modern decks, all the decks. Definitely would recommend playing it. And if you get it in draft, holy cow, awesome lands. And next up is another pretty fun reprint, Sulfuric Vortex. And for 1 and double red, it is an enchantment that says, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, this card deals 2 damage to that player, okay? And then if a player would gain life, that player gains no life instead. Yeah, and Taz was just saying, that's a solid card. That is a solid card. Because, I mean, it deals damage to your opponents, and they can't gain life. So, yeah. Yeah, just speeding up the game, making the game quicker, and making sure your opponents can't get above you in life. So, yeah, really solid aggro card for sure. And I'm pretty sure you can play it in Modern, but it could be a fun card in Commander as well, for sure. And next up is Triskelion. Triskelion, I think is how you pronounce that. It's a 6 mana 1/1 artifact construct. Okay, this already sucks. Oh, but wait. This card enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. So it's a 6 mana 4/4. Okay, what else does it do? You can remove a counter from it and deal 1 damage to any target. So it's like, what's the name of that card that just got reprinted in Jumpstart 2022? It's similar to basically the way to, if you have a lot of mana, basically just win the game with this thing. But it's like a downgraded version of it because you can't add counters to it. But I mean, if you have enough +1/+1 counters on it, it can deal a lot of damage to your opponent, which is nice, but it's not a very good card in my opinion, but who knows? Maybe there's someone out there who can use it and make it busted. But anyways, next up is... Ooh, there aren't that many rares left. We're about to move into the mythics. Next up is Umbilicus. Umbilicus? Okay. 4-mana artifact that says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player may pay 2 life. Okay. And if they do, they return a permanent they control to their hand. So, ways to recur their stuff. Not directly into play, thank goodness, but into their hand, which is still pretty broken. And I'm not exactly sure how this could be played in certain decks, but I mean, I guess this could be played in like a kind of group hug deck that you're also playing cards that are pretty big and are lightning rods for removal and ways, and this is a way for you to get that card back or those cards back, but who knows. But yeah, it's a fun card. It's a fun card. And next up is Urza's Blueprints, which for 6 mana is an artifact with Echo 6. At the beginning of your upkeep, if this came under your control, since... Okay, so basically at the beginning of your upkeep, you have to pay 6 mana or else you sacrifice this thing. Okay. What else does it do? You can tap it and draw a card. That card sucks. Don't play it. Do not play it. I mean, it's a cool looking card. It's a really good looking card for the art, but the card sucks. Do not play it in any deck. Don't play it in Draft. Don't play it in Modern. Don't play it in Legacy. Don't play it in Commander. Don't play it anywhere. The card sucks. Next up is Vexing Sphinx, which for 1 and double blue, it is a 4/4 Sphinx with flying and a cumulative upkeep cost of you having to discard a card. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you have to discard a card for each H counter on it, and you get 1 counter at the beginning of your upkeep. So turn 1, when you go to your upkeep, you have to discard 1 card, then 2 cards, then 3 cards, then 4 cards, then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, Taz is already saying this card is not very good looking. Ooh, but there is something good about this. So Vexing Sphinx, for 1 and double blue, it's a 4/4 flyer, which is decent, but it's got that cumulative upkeep cost of you having to discard cards. However, when this dies, you draw a card for each age counter on it. So long as you keep discarding cards to it, you keep putting age counters on it, eventually you're going to have to sacrifice this thing and draw a decent amount of cards. It's definitely not a great card, but I mean, it's decent. It's not great, but it's not bad. But yeah, I still wouldn't play this though, because like Taz said, it's still a bad card. It's not worth it. But next up is Windborn Muse. And for 3 and a white, it is a 2/3 spirit with flying, so already semi-decent stats. And it says creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature attacking you. So, they have to pay a ton of mana to attack you. And, I mean, they're taxed 2 mana just to attack you with 1 creature. And, I mean, this is a 4 mana, 2/3 body in the air. Yeah, super duper solid card. Great in Commander, for sure. And great in Draft, for sure. I mean, this can, by itself, win you the game, in my opinion. But, yeah, that card, incredible card. Really fun card and a really annoying card. I guarantee Riot Guy's gonna play it against me one of these days in a deck. Because, I mean, it's Riot Guy. Barrel House. Riot Guy. Same person. Both annoying. Yeah, Taz is saying, that card is strong, that card is good, that card is very good. Yeah, it's a very good card. Next up is another really good card. I think it's the last card of the check lands that are getting printed in this set, but I may be wrong. Woodland Cemetery. It enters tapped unless you control any kind of swamp or forest. Doesn't just have to be basic. And it taps for a black or green. Like all the other check lands, solid card would play in any one of your decks. And Worldly Tutor, and also you can play that card in Modern as well, which is good. But Worldly Tutor, Another incredible card, because for 1 green mana, it's an instant that says, hey, search your library for any creature you want. You reveal it, though, but hey, you shuffle your deck afterwards and put it on top of your deck. So, yeah, you get any creature you want and put it on the top of your deck. For 1 mana, at instant speed. Is that card broken? Yep. Great card. Would play it in any of your green decks in Commander. I sadly don't think it's legal in Modern, but yeah, it sucks. It sucks. It really sucks, but yeah, it makes me sad. After that, there is Wrath of God, which for 2 and 2 white is a sorcery, but it destroys all creatures, and they can't be regenerated. So, yeah. Yeah, that's a, it was the OG board wipe, and it's still probably the best board wipe to this day. I don't think there's really a board wipe better than it. Well, I mean, there probably is certain board wipes out there that are better than it, but it's really hard to beat this thing because it's so efficient. I mean, it only costs 4 mana, and hey, if your opponent has any creatures that can regenerate, which is rare to see nowadays, but they can't be regenerated. So yeah, great card, super duper solid card, and one of the last rares to talk about, and definitely a solid one to almost finish off the rares with. And next up is Zira Arian. For a black, a red, and a green, is a 1/2 legendary insect wizard with flying. That for 1 black, 1 red, 1 green, you can tap it and have a player draw a card. Sucks, not a very good card, would not play it, in my opinion. Alright, and I think that's it for rares. Nope, sorry. One more rare, then we're getting into the really good stuff. Yes, mythics. Yeah, the mythics, we're going to start off with a banger when it comes to mythics. I'm just going to say that now. Zur the Enchanter is the last rare that we are going to cover for this stream. And for 1, a white, a blue, and a black, it is a 1/4 legendary human wizard with flying. Decent. And whenever it attacks, search your library for an enchantment with mana value 3 or less, put it directly into play, and then shuffle. Really solid card. I have no use. Yeah, cannot wait for the set. Barrel House just said it. This set looks absolutely amazing. The commons are great. The uncommons are great. Everything's great. If you haven't watched the other streams yet, check them out. The commons are great. The uncommons are great. The rares are great. And we're about to get into some incredibly busted mythics. And yeah, Zur the Enchanter, fun card. Maybe not the best card, but I would definitely recommend playing it. And now, on to the first mythic of Dominaria Remastered. And holy crap, this card is insane because it is none other than Dark Depths, one of the most powerful lands ever printed. It is a legendary snowland that enters the battlefield with 10 ice counters on it. And for 3 mana, you can remove an ice counter from Dark Depths. And whenever this card has no ice counters on it, you sacrifice it. And then, if you do, you create a 20 Merit Lage avatar token with flying and indestructible. Holy crap. I mean, over the course of multiple turns, or if you just have tons and tons of mana out, you get a way to win the game by this, just with this one land. 2020 with flying and indestructible. Yeah, Taz is saying it. He said it twice already. I haven't acknowledged it yet, but that card is a bomb. It is amazing. It is busted. It is incredibly, incredibly busted. Great card. And hey, here's another amazing, amazing card. One of the best counter spells ever. In my opinion, the best counter spell ever. So yeah, this card better be really good. And it is. It's the most expensive card in the set. And it's the best card in the set. Because for 3 and double blue, it is an instant Force of Will. That already sounds powerful. You may pay a life instead of paying this spell's mana cost, and you also have to exile a blue card from your hand. So, okay, pay a life and exile a blue card from your hand, and you don't have to pay the spell's mana cost of 3 and double blue, and it's an instant, and you counter a spell. So you lose 1 life, and you have to exile one of your, less good blue cards in hand. Barrelhouse, Force of Will isn't $20. I mean, Dark Depths, I think, is like $20-ish, but Force of Will is $80. But yeah, Force of Will, great card, because, I mean, for 1 blue and exiling one of your less good blue cards from your hand, you get to counter any spell you want. So yeah, incredibly powerful card. Probably one of the best counter spells in the entire game, for sure. And then next up is Gauntlet of Power. Okay, yeah, already sounds scary. And it kind of looks like Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet. So yeah, looks even scarier. So for 5 mana, it's an artifact that says when it enters the battlefield, you choose a color. Creatures of the chosen color get +1/+1. Whenever a basic land, sadly, is tapped for mana of that chosen color, you add 1 additional mana of that color. So, yeah, you double the amount of lands being added by basic lands of the chosen color, and creatures of the chosen color get a buff. Yeah, super solid card. Probably not the best mythic. I think it's one of the less expensive mythics in the set, but it's a really solid card overall. Now, here's a incredibly powerful mythic. Hunting Grounds. 1 green, 1 white, enchantment with threshold. So as long as you have 7 more cards in your graveyard, you get the following ability. Which is, whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may put any creature card you want from your hand onto the battlefield. Huh? What? For free? Yeah, that card is insane. It's busted. It's not as good as Force of Will and Dark Depths, but it's still a really good card. And next up is Kamal, Fist of Krosa, which for 4 and double green is a 4/3 legendary human druid that for 1 green you can make one of your lands into a 1/1 creature until the end of turn that is still a land. And you can pay 2 and triple green to give creatures you control +3/+3 and trample until the end of turn. Yeah, that's a solid card. That's a really busted card. That is a way to end games if you have enough creatures out. I mean, in an elf deck, in an elf tribal deck, in like an elf modern deck, that's a way to win the game. That is a way to win the game. Next up is Last Chance. For double red, it is a sorcery that says, take an extra turn after this one. What? But at the beginning of that, or at the end of that turn, you lose the game. Okay. Well, if you know you're gonna win, if you know you only need 1 more turn to win the game, here's a way to give you that 1 more turn. And hey, if you don't win, you go out in style. And next up is a really fun looking card, Legacy Weapon. For 7 mana, it is a legendary artifact that for 1 white, 1 black, 1 blue, 1 red, and 1 green, you exile a permanent, which isn't great. And it says whenever this card would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, reveal it and shuffle it into your deck instead. So not a great card, but still a decent card. It's just a fun reprint. And here is a really, 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 really good Angel Lord. Lyra Dawnbringer. For 3 and double white. It is a 5/5 legendary angel with first strike, blind, and lifelink. Okay, pretty solid. And it says other angels you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. Wow, that card is insane. And I said it yesterday, Sarah Angel is just a fun angel, and this card you're going to see in a deck here soon. So yeah, all of you watching this now know I'm building an angel deck for Dominaria Remastered here soon. That's going to be my modern deck for this set. Yeah, Lyra is great. It is insane. Yeah, Kelly, it is great. Great to have you, Kelly. But yeah, Lyra Dawnbringer is a great angel. And No Mercy is another great card and a really powerful enchantment. Because for 2 and double black, it is an enchantment that says, whenever a creature deals damage to you, destroy it. What? Yeah, that is an incredible card, and a really powerful card to say the least. And, yeah, really good card. Next up is Nut Collector. I think that's the least expensive mythic in the set, but it's still a really fun one, because for 5 in a green, it is a 1/1 human druid that at the beginning of your upkeep, you create a 1/1 green squirrel. I mean, it's a squirrel. It's awesome. And as long as you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, in other words, as long as you have Threshold, squirrels you control get +2/+2. So in a green-black, which is commonly the squirrel colors, in Commander at least, like, squirrel deck, usually got a mill plan, and if you mill enough cards, all your squirrels get a buff. And they are really, really powerful and really, really big. And usually you have a lot of squirrels, and this is a way to kill your opponent with big, beefy squirrels. Which, I mean, is that not the most fun way to win a game ever? So, yeah, super fun card. And next up is Sarah Avatar, which for 4 and triple white is a star avatar that says its power and toughness are each equal to your life total. Okay, that's really good. And if this card would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, shuffle it into its owner's library instead. So yeah, 7 mana, usually going to be like a, what, 10/10 flyer at least? Or wait, no, sorry, not a flyer. It's not a flyer. It should be a flyer. It looks like it should be a flyer, but yeah, it can be really, really big. And here are, well, the next couple cards are going to be incredibly broken. Actually, I'd say the rest of the cards that I'm going to be covering here today are going to be really good. The first one being Sneak Attack. One of the most powerful cards in Legacy, for red anyways. For 3 and a red, it is an enchantment that says for 1 red mana, you can put a creature card from your hand directly onto the battlefield. Okay. And then that card gains haste. Okay. That's, holy cow. And that creature gets sacrificed at the end, or at the beginning of the next end step. So, Yeah, Barrel House is saying, I cannot wait to play Two-Headed Giant, because, what? Yeah, that is insane. That is busted. That is powerful. And, here's another one of the more expensive cards in the entire set coming up next. Sneak Attack, also incredible card in Legacy, in Vintage, in Commander. It's great. But here's another really good card for Commander. Sylvan Library. 1 in a green enchantment. At the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. Excuse me? If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand that you've drawn this turn. For each card chosen this way, pay 4 life. And put the card on top of your... Okay, so basically what you get to do is you draw 3 cards. Then, if you pick one of them and put it into your hand, you don't have to pay any life. But if you pick one more, you have to pay 4 life. If you pick both of them, you have to pay 8 life. But here's the thing. You get to stack the top 3 of your deck in any order you want for the rest of the game, as long as you have this out. And if you draw 1 card, you pay no life. If you draw 2, you pay 4 life. 3, 8 life. Really solid card. Great card for green in Commander. And hey, that Gerald Minavale, or whatever it's called, that I was talking about earlier, saying if you draw 2 cards this turn, or when you draw your second card each turn, you get a cat. That is a great way to trigger that ability on your upkeep. Because you do still draw the 3 cards. You just choose which 3 you want to keep in your hand. If you keep all 3, you pay 8 life, though, which sucks, but you still draw the cards, so that's pretty That's pretty key in certain decks, in my opinion. But next up is Test of Endurance, which for 2 and double white is an enchantment that says, what? At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 50 or more life, you win the game. Yeah, you just flat out win the game if you have 50 life. Fun. In that Lyra, you all remember Lyra from like 6 minutes ago. Your angels have lifelink, right? Angels are big, usually, right? Test of Endurance, says if you have 50 life, you win the game, right? So, you can see where I'm going with this. Really busted combo. Next up is Time Stretch, which for 8 in double blue is a sorcery. Okay, 10 mana, +1/+1 lifelink, all the life, Kelly. All the life with Test of Endurance, making you win the game with that life, and Lyra just gaining you all that life in Angels. But Time Stretch is this card for 8 in double blue. It is a sorcery, and it says target player takes 2 extra turns. If you have like an omniscience effect out on the board, yeah, you for 0 mana take 2 extra turns. That's usually the decks that you're gonna see this in, and yeah, that's a really good card. That is a really good card. And then next up is Urza Lord High Artificer. 2 and double blue, 1/4 legendary human artificer. Barrel House was just saying, yeah, angels, go angels. Angels are powerful. But Urza, Lord Artificer, is another one of the more powerful cards in the entire set. Because for 2 and double blue, 1/4 legendary human artificer that says when it enters the battlefield, you create a 0/0 colorless artifact construct creature token with this card gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control, including itself, so it's automatically a 1/1. And, yeah, that can get pretty big pretty fast. And hey, you also can tap an untapped artifact you control and add a blue mana to your mana pool. Okay, also really solid. For 5 mana, you can shuffle your library and then exile the top card. Until the end of the turn, you may play that card without paying its mana cost. That last little bit isn't as important, but it still can be pretty broken. But yeah, that card is insane as a commander. In Modern, it's just insane in general. I mean, Urza Lord High Artificer hasn't seen a reprinting since it originally got printed in Modern Horizons, the original Modern Horizons, and it's great to see it back again with another card that hasn't seen a reprinting since, well, I mean, I guess Time Spiral Remastered, but still. Yawgmoth Ran Physician. For 2 and double black, there are still 3 more mythics after this, by the way. 2 and double black, it is a 2/4 legendary human cleric with protection from humans, which can be important at times, and says, pay 1 life, sack another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on another target creature, and draw a card. So, free sack outlet. You have to pay a life, sure, but you make your opponent's creature smaller permanently, and draw a card. Also, you can pay double black and discard a card and proliferate. So what proliferate means is you choose any number of kinds of counters on like different players or creatures, and you put an additional one of those counters on those players and creatures or planeswalkers. So yeah, you get to add more -1/-1 counters to your opponent's creatures. Yeah, Yawgmoth, Thran Physician, really fun card. And so is Urza's Incubator, 3 mana artifact. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type cost 2 less. Yeah, once again, tribal deck, busted card. That card is insane. I mean, yeah, why? Why? I'm pretty sure that's not legal in Modern, but that's still an incredible card in, like, a commander deck. And just a really solid card overall. And here is one of the last cards in the Dominaria Remastered set I am reviewing. And it's a dragon, so Barrel House is going to be really happy. World Gorger Dragon. Already sounds terrifying, and I guarantee it's going to be. Oh, great. 3 in triple red for a 7/7 Nightmare Dragon with Flying and Trample. It's already busted. Great. When it enters, exile all other permanents you control. Okay. When it would leave the battlefield, return the exiled cards from your battlefield, or to the battlefield under your control. So, yeah, when this card goes away, you bring all your permanents back onto the board. But until then, you have a 7/7 with Flying and Trample for 6 mana. Yeah, that's still really busted for 6 mana. It's probably not the best mythic in the world, but it's still an incredibly powerful mythic, to say the least. Barrel House. Dragons! I don't care that I have to get rid of my entire board as long as I get a giant dragon. But yeah, giant dragons. Dragons are fun. Barrel House, why? Why do you do this to me? Why are dragons so powerful? Okay, last card of Dominaria Remastered that I am reviewing. The last mythic. And once again, one of the most powerful mythics in Magic history. Because it is none other than the Black Tutor. One of the best Black Tutors ever. Vampiric Tutor. 1 black mana instant. Search your library for a card. And put that card on top of your deck. After you shuffle your deck, of course. And you lose 2 life. So search your deck for any card you want. Shuffle your deck. Put it on top of your deck. You don't have to reveal it. And you lose 2 life. Why does black get all the goodies? Why can't red get all the goodies? Why can't red and, like, blue? I mean, blue already gets a lot of the goodies. Why can't red get goodies, too? I mean, like, red gets none of the good stuff except dragons. Except dragons. I mean, I guess they get tons of really good spell, slinger, aggro stuff, but I want red to be better. But anyways, Vampiric Tutor, incredible card. Really glad to see that card getting reprinted. Totally. I'm dying on the inside. Anyways, with all of that aside, thank you for watching. I'm your host, Teen Wolf. I hope that you're all looking forward to Dominaria Remastered coming out and having tons of fun with that. And hey, with all of that aside, thank you for watching. I'm your host, Teen Wolf. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already. It's completely free. And I will see you here very, very soon when Dominaria Remastered comes out. And until it does, enjoy some Throne of Eldraine gameplay videos. Draft gameplay videos, I should say, with Ryguy and me. So, with all of that aside, thank you. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you next time. See you later, Taz, Barrel House, Kelly, all of y'all. See you later.